Something in you paused the moment this message appeared, not because you were told to stop, not because of a command, but because your intuition caught something your mind couldn't name. It wasn't the timer. It wasn't the visuals. It was that quiet sense inside you that said, "This feels different." You've been carrying so much, more than you show, more than anyone really understands. You've been walking around with a heart full of things you haven't had the space to process, disappointments you pushed aside, fears you pretended not to feel, expectations that stretched you farther than you meant to go. And somewhere along the line, you got used to pretending you were fine. But you weren't. Not really. Not always. Your mind has been racing lately, spinning in circles around things you can't fix and outcomes you can't control. Every time you think you've found peace, something inside you tightens again. Your nervous system hasn't had a real rest in a long time. That's why when this message appeared, part of you felt like exhaling, like releasing a breath you didn't know you were holding. Because deep inside, your spirit has been waiting for someone to finally say, "You don't have to carry all of this alone." These words land differently, don't they? They reach places that haven't been reached in a while. They soften you in a way that feels both unfamiliar and overdue. The truth is, you've been trying to keep your life from falling apart by holding everything together yourself. You've been the strong one, the responsible one, the one who fixes things, the one who absorbs the pressure, the one who keeps going even when there's nothing left to give. And yet, in the middle of all that strength, you forgot something important. Even strong people need to feel supported. Even resilient hearts need to feel understood. Even brave souls need moments where they can simply breathe. And right now, in this exact moment, your breath is beginning to deepen, your shoulders are loosening, and your mind is slowing just enough to hear what's been waiting for you. Archangel Michael whispers a truth you've been avoiding. You've been carrying more than you were meant to carry. Let that sink in for a moment, not as blame, not as weakness, but as recognition. Because everything in your life, every pressure, every worry, every expectation has been stacking on top of you, little by little, and you didn't even notice how heavy it had become. You just kept moving. You kept giving. You kept showing up. You kept being the version of yourself that others needed. But you've reached a point where something inside you is quietly breaking, not in a destructive way, but in a necessary way. A breaking open, a releasing, a truth rising from underneath all the noise. And that truth is simple. You can't keep living like this. Not with this pace, not with this pressure, not with this emotional weight, not with this silent exhaustion you pretend isn't there. Your spirit knows when something needs to change, even when your mind tries to keep things the same. That's why today felt heavier than usual. That's why your emotions felt closer to the surface. That's why small things affected you more than normal. That's why you felt that strange tension in your chest, or throat, or stomach. It wasn't random. It was the beginning of a turning point. Because right before a major shift, things often feel the most overwhelming. Not because you're failing, but because the universe is preparing to move you. The discomfort you felt today wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Archangel Michael says, you didn't fall behind. You were rerouted. Isn't it strange how those words feel like medicine? How they make sense of something you couldn't explain. How they lift a little weight off your shoulders. Think about it. How many times have you blamed yourself for slowing down? For not being able to keep up? For not having it all together? For not being stronger, faster, more focused, more perfect? And yet here you are, still standing, still trying, still caring, still showing up. And you've forgotten to see the strength in that. Maybe today you felt lost. Maybe today your patience ran out. Maybe today you felt like the world was asking too much from you. Maybe today your heart whispered, I can't keep going like this. But that whisper wasn't a collapse. It was a signal, a shift, an awakening. Because something in your spirit is done tolerating old patterns, done carrying old wounds, done stretching itself thin just to maintain a version of life that no longer fits who you re-becoming. And this moment, right here, right now, is when that shift begins. You feel it, don't you? That quiet sense that something is rearranging inside you. That subtle awareness that a chapter is closing. That soft pull towards something new, something gentler, something more aligned with who you truly are. This moment is not an accident. You are not meant to scroll past it. Not because of a command, but because your intuition grabbed it. These next moments are going to feel different, like someone is finally helping you lift the emotional weight you've been carrying. Like something inside you is being rewritten, realigned, redirected. Not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply. So take a slow breath, let it fall from your chest, and allow this truth to settle in. You are at the beginning of a new direction. This is the disruption moment, the moment your future starts shifting. Something inside you is softening now. You might not fully understand it yet, but you can feel it, a slow uncoiling, like a tight knot finally loosening after being pulled for far too long. Your breath is becoming a little deeper. Your chest feels a little less heavy. Even the space around you seems a little quieter, as if something is shifting in the background of your life. That's not your imagination. That's your nervous system beginning to reset. For months, maybe years, you've been moving in survival mode without even noticing. You've been trying to keep up with expectations, responsibilities, emotions, deadlines, relationships, disappointments, and fears that stacked themselves on your back until you could barely stand straight. And because you're strong, you adapted. Because you're resilient, you kept going. Because you had no other choice, you kept holding everything together. But your soul has been waiting for the moment you would slow down enough to feel yourself again. And that moment is right now. Archangel Michael's words echo gently through this pause. You've been carrying too much on a heart that was meant to feel, not just endure. There's something true in that sentence that your mind can't argue with. You're not weak. You're tired. You're not incapable. You're overloaded. You're not lost. You just haven't had a chance to breathe. And now, as each second passes, you feel that invisible weight beginning to ease. Not because your problems disappeared. Not because everything suddenly became perfect. But because someone finally is acknowledging the weight you've been carrying. That acknowledgement alone changes your energy. You've been holding yourself together with nothing but willpower. You've been pretending to be okay for people who never noticed your cracks. You've been acting strong in moments where you deserve to collapse. You've been denying your exhaustion just to keep moving forward. And yet here you are, still open, still trying, still hoping. Do you realize how rare that is? Do you realize how powerful that makes you? Today's heaviness wasn't a coincidence. It was a sign, a message, a shift. Sometimes the universe lets everything feel overwhelming at once, so you finally recognize the truth. You weren't meant to live your entire life braced for impact. The tension in your shoulders, the tightness in your chest, the buzzing in your mind, the pressure behind your eyes. These weren't failures. They were signals. Your body was trying to tell you something your mind kept ignoring. You deserve rest. You deserve peace. You deserve support. You deserve alignment. You've been acting like someone who doesn't have the right to pause. Like someone who can only stop when everything is fixed. Like someone who isn't allowed to break, cry, release, or soften. But the truth is this. Your life begins to change the moment you stop trying to hold it together alone. Right now, without forcing it, your breath is becoming steadier. Your chest is lifting without as much effort. Your thoughts are slowing just enough for clarity to seep through. This is what happens when emotional weight starts lifting. Not dramatically, but gently. Almost silently. Basmelik Mikhail's message expands. You haven't failed. You've simply reached the moment where something new must begin. Let that settle inside you. You didn't mess up your life. You didn't waste your time. You didn't take the wrong path. You didn't ruin anything. You adapted. You survived. You grew through darkness. You held yourself together when no one knew how much it cost you. And now your future is being rewritten, not by force, but by permission. The permission you're giving yourself. In this exact moment, hear as the truth that your soul is finally ready to accept. Your life is allowed to get easier. Not because all your problems disappear, but because you stop believing you must carry everything alone. Pay attention to the sensations rising within you right now. The slight warmth in your hands, the loosening in your lower stomach, the soft awareness pulling you inward, the feeling that something inside you is shifting into place. These signs matter. Your energy is rearranging. Your spirit is lifting. Your field is calming. Your heart is opening again. Not wide, not all at once, but enough. Enough for healing to enter. Enough for clarity to return. Enough for the future to approach you instead of running from you. You've had moments recently where you felt disconnected from yourself. Moments where you didn't recognize your reactions. Moments where you felt out of sync with your own life. Moments where you wondered, why does everything feel wrong? Those weren't failures. They were symptoms of outgrowing your old identity. You're not supposed to fit into the old version of yourself anymore. You're not supposed to carry the old burdens. You're not supposed to live with the old fears. You're not supposed to return to the old patterns. Your discomfort was a sign that a new version of you was trying to emerge, but you were too overwhelmed to hear it. Until now. Right now, your body is melting out of defense mode. Your heart is releasing what it couldn't say out loud. Your mind is surrendering the need to control every outcome. Your spirit is stepping out from under years of emotional pressure. And something deep within you whispers, it's finally time. Time to stop bracing for the worst. Time to stop carrying burdens that aren't yours. Time to stop being at war with your own needs. Time to stop surviving and start living. You're not imagining it. This moment really is different. This is the beginning of a psychological shift, an emotional reset, a spiritual awakening. Take another slow breath. Feel how it moves differently in your body now. Feel how your chest rises a little easier. Feel how your pulse softens. Let this truth root itself deeply inside you. You are allowed to feel lighter. You are allowed to feel supported. You are allowed to start again. Something in you is reorganizing, not in theory, not in metaphor, but physically, emotionally, energetically. You can feel it happening even now. The tension that once lived in your chest is loosening. The pressure behind your thoughts is dissolving. That quiet sense of something is shifting keeps rising like a gentle tide. You aren't imagining this. Your entire internal landscape is being rewritten. Because the moment you allowed yourself to breathe, the moment you allowed yourself to be honest, the moment you stopped pretending to be unaffected, that was the moment your spirit finally had space to move. For so long, you've been living in a version of yourself that was built on survival. A version that reacted instead of choosing. A version that endured instead of receiving. A version that took responsibility for everything, even things that never belonged to you. You adapted to stress so well that you forgot what calm even feels like. But now you're remembering. And that memory, that soft returning, is what begins shaping your new reality. Basmelik Michael says something few people are ready to hear, but you are. Your life expands the moment you stop shrinking yourself to carry what I ascend to yours. Read that again. Let it echo. Let it settle into your bones. You've been shrinking yourself, shrinking your voice, shrinking your needs, shrinking your desires, shrinking your truth, shrinking your boundaries, shrinking your potential. Not because you're weak, but because you were never given the space to be fully yourself. You learn to adjust to other people's comfort levels. You learn to stay quiet to keep the peace. You learn to be strong because no one else was stepping up. You learn to overfunction because people around you underfunctioned. And you learn to blame yourself for the emotional storms you didn't create. But something inside you has started refusing that old identity. That refusal, that internal no more, is the spark of transformation. You felt it earlier today, didn't you? When something bothered you and you didn't react the same way. When something triggered you and you didn't collapse inward. When someone disappointed you and your soul simply said, "Okay, that tells me everything I need to know." When you caught yourself wanting peace more than control. These are not random. These are not mood swings. These are not coincidences. These are symptoms of outgrowing your old emotional programming. Every time you feel a shift like this, your spirit is reclaiming a piece of itself. And the more pieces you reclaim, the more whole you become. Not the version of you that people expect, but the version of you that you are always meant to grow into. You're starting to see through things that used to confuse you. You're starting to detach from things that used to consume you. You're starting to recognize patterns you used to fall for. You're starting to feel your intuition rise stronger than your fear. This is what spiritual alignment looks like, clarity replacing chaos. Your soul isn't losing stability. It's gaining consciousness. There is a moment in every transformation where the shift becomes irreversible, where you've seen too much truth to ever go back to the old emotional blindness. You are reaching that moment now. You are stepping into the phase where your inner world and outer world both begin to rearrange around who you re-becoming. You might notice it in subtle ways first. The silence feels different, safer, warmer. Your home feels different, calmer, lighter. Your thoughts feel different, slower, kinder. Your reactions feel different, less urgent, more deliberate. Your emotions feel different, deeper but less overwhelming. This isn't you changing. This is you finally returning to your natural state, the state before stress reshaped your whole nervous system. Archangel Michael says, "You're not breaking down, you're breaking open." And opening is a sacred process. For years, you've been holding everything in, clenching your emotions, tightening your jaw, carrying weight in your shoulders, forcing your lungs to hold breaths that should have been released. When you suppress pain, your body absorbs it. When you suppress your truth, your energy dims. When you suppress your needs, your spirit becomes restless. But now the suppression is stopping. Now the release is beginning. Now the opening is unfolding. And as you open, your reality opens too. People who drained your energy will start naturally drifting away. Opportunities that match your new frequency will start appearing. Conversations that once felt heavy will feel unnecessary. Decisions that were impossible to make will suddenly become obvious. The future that once felt blurry will begin to clarify itself. This is what alignment means, the outer world adjusting to the inner world. You're re-stepping out of the timeline where everything is forced and into the timeline where everything flows. And flow has a different rhythm. Flow doesn't ask you to chase. Flow doesn't punish you for resting. Flow doesn't require you to beg for what you deserve. Flow doesn't hold love or clarity hostage. Flow says, if it's meant for you, it will move toward you. And now, finally, it is. You don't have to strain anymore. You don't have to apologize for being tired. You don't have to justify your intuition. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone. You don't have to pretend you're unaffected. You can let your heart open. You can let your body relax. You can let the universe meet you halfway. You can let your future come toward you. In the next few days, maybe even the next few hours, something subtle but undeniable will happen. You'll receive a sign, a message, a realization, a shift in energy that confirms what you're feeling right now. Your future has already begun moving toward you. Your spirit will feel it first. Your mind will understand it later. Your life will reflect it soon. Take a slow breath. Let the air fill you without effort. Let your shoulders drop a little more. Let your heart soften. You are stepping into a new frequency, one where you are no longer fighting for every inch of peace. You are entering the part of your journey where you start receiving what your spirit has been ready for long, before your mind believed you deserved it. There is a point in transformation where something clicks, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, almost silently, the way dawn arrives without announcing itself. A moment when your mind and your spirit both agree, I can go back to who I was yesterday. You are standing in that moment right now. Everything inside you that felt tangled is beginning to loosen. The heaviness you carried like armor is slowly sliding off. The stories you repeated to yourself about being behind, about needing to be stronger, about having to push harder, are beginning to dissolve. The emotional weight you've had buried for years is finally surfacing in a form that doesn't overwhelm you, but frees you. This is what real change feels like before it becomes visible on the outside. Not flashy, not explosive, but quiet, honest, undeniable. Your inner world is rearranging itself to support the person you're becoming. For so long, you lived in a state of contradiction. You had a soft heart, but carried hard burdens. You had deep intuition, but ignored it for the sake of logic. You had quiet desires, but silenced them to meet expectations. You had dreams, but convinced yourself they were too far away. You had needs, but taught yourself to feel guilty for having them. And all this time your spirit was whispering beneath the noise. You were meant for more than just enduring. You're hearing that whisper clearly now. As Archangel Michael says, the moment you choose yourself, your entire timeline begins to rearrange. That is what is happening here. Your life is shifting in response to your alignment. You're no longer vibrating at the frequency of survival. You're no longer shrinking to fit inside old dynamics. You're no longer apologizing for wanting peace. You're no longer fighting battles that aren't yours. You're no longer carrying wounds that don't belong to your future. Your energy is elevating, and whether you realize it or not, your reality is beginning to match it. There are a few truths you need to hear. Not softly, not vaguely, but clearly. 1. You are not who you were last month. Life has taken you through an emotional detox. All the heaviness, confusion, sensitivity, tiredness, they weren't setbacks. They were symptoms of expansion. You've outgrown versions of yourself that were built only to survive pain. Now you're becoming someone who can receive joy without questioning whether you deserve it. 2. Your relationships are about to shift. Not because you're pushing anyone away, but because your new energy exposes what no longer aligns. People who drained you will lose access. People who respect your boundaries will step forward. Connections that honor your growth will arrive without effort. Your heart is no longer available for unbalanced attachments. 3. Your opportunities will start coming toward you. You've spent years chasing, forcing, grinding, overworking, proving, striving. But receiving works differently. It comes when your energy is calm enough to hold it. And right now, your energy is becoming steady, maybe for the first time in years. Don't be surprised if something you've been waiting for suddenly moves closer. 4. Your intuition is becoming louder than your fear. This is one of the clearest signs of alignment. You'll begin sensing truths before they reveal themselves. You'll know who is right for you and who is not. You'll feel what opportunities are real and which ones are distractions. You'll stop doubting the quiet voice inside you because it has never been wrong. 5. You are entering a season of receiving, not because you earned it through struggle, but because you finally opened a space where blessings have room to land. You've been holding your breath for too long. Now you're exhaling. And when you exhale, life inhales for you. Let that sink in. Look at yourself honestly. Across all the storms, across all the disappointments, across all the setbacks. You didn't collapse. You didn't give up. You didn't lose your spirit. Even when you thought you were broken, you were actually breaking open. Everything you went through has carved space inside you. Space for clarity. Space for truth. Space for blessings. Space for alignment. Space for a future that doesn't hurt to imagine. And that future is already reaching toward you. Archangel Michael reveals something profound. The version of you re-becoming is already ahead of you, reaching back and pulling you forward. Imagine that for a moment. A future version of you, healed, steady, clear, grounded, confident, reaching back to guide you, support you, align you. Your job is not to chase that future. Your job is to allow yourself to be pulled toward it. And you're doing that right now. Your nervous system is calming. Your energy is softening. Your clarity is returning. Your self-worth is rising. Your old identity is dissolving. These shifts may feel subtle, but they're powerful. You're stepping into the timeline where things work out, where peace is normal, not rare, where blessings come naturally, not painfully, where love meets you, not tests you, where opportunities flow, not fight you, where you don't fear the future, you collaborate with it. Take a slow breath, one that feels different from the ones before. Notice how it lands lower in your body. Notice how your chest expands without strain. Notice how your mind isn't resisting this moment. This is integration happening. This is your new baseline forming. And there is one more truth you need to claim. You are allowed to choose your future over your past. You're allowed to stop explaining yourself to people who don't listen. You're allowed to walk away from things that drain your spirit. You're allowed to change direction without guilt. You're allowed to accept help without feeling weak. You're allowed to want more without feeling greedy. You're allowed to rest without feeling lazy. You're allowed to start again without apology. Your past shaped you. Your pain strengthened you. Your survival trained you. But none of that defines your future. This moment, these minutes, they were never about rushing. They were about redirecting. Your future shifted because you stayed present long enough to let the change begin. So say it softly, say it honestly, say it for yourself. My shift begins now, and from this moment on, it already has.